and welcome to my art channel. Today we are going to be painting this painting together. I'm going to show you step by step in a real-time demo exactly how you can create this painting. We are going to be using acrylic paints and just a couple of brushes. Feel free to use whatever you've got lying around. There's no special things that you have to have for this. And I'm really excited because I am going to be showing you some colour mixing secrets and also some techniques to really capture that impressionistic style in your paintings. If you like floral impressionistic paintings, I've also got a class that I think you will really like. At the moment it is just $7. You can find the link in the description where we will be painting these 3 paintings together, and I break down the exact steps of how you can create this, and students are getting amazing results with this class, which is only $7 and you get lifetime access to it. So if that sounds like something that you would enjoy, feel free to go sign up for that to the link in the description box. It is all pre-recorded classes, so you can just move through at your own pace. But for today's lesson, let's crack on with this painting, and the reference photo and all materials can be found in the description box.
Okay guys, so let's get started. I've just got a canvas panel here. These are really nice for just doing little sketches and practicing on. I've got a palette and a couple brushes here. I'm going to be using the Winton range, size 10 and size 6. These are both, well, this one is a flat edge, this one is a filbert. And what that means is basically, there's just a really nice shape to the brush. So rather than them just being round, they're like wider one way than they are another. That means that you can use them for like little bits of detail if you just applied pressure lightly, but it means that you can give a really nice flat edge shape, which is really nice for impressionistic painting. So if you like the impressionistic edge to a painting, definitely get yourself some flat or filbert brushes. Then I've also got a palette knife that I'm not sure if we'll definitely use yet, but it's nice just to have handy. Again, really nice tool for if you like the impressionistic style of painting. And then colours, I've got cobalt blue, but really any blue will work absolutely fine. A Jenkins green, or just like a sap green colour, just like a dark green. Let me just zoom you in, because you don't have to use these exact paints, and they all have slightly different colours. So a dark green that's quite nice and colourful and juicy in colour. And then we've got magenta, which is just a really nice, great overall colour to use. Yellow ochre, which we'll be using a lot, and titanium white. So again, you can use whatever supplies you have handy. You don't have to use even these exact colours. They will all do a very similar thing. The main thing that I do want to draw attention to is to make sure that if we're using the colour wheel that we do have a magenta or a red, but magenta I like the best. Some kind of blue, either cobalt or ultramarine, or a yellow, whether that's yellow ochre or just a cad yellow. So somewhere so that we do have a balanced colour wheel so that we can make all the colours in between. So I'm going to squeeze those out now onto my palette, and I'll see you in a second. So hopefully you can all see the reference photo. I'm going to pop that here. You don't have to do exactly the same painting as me. In fact, if you want to change the orientation of your canvas, or if you just want to zoom in on one flower, totally fine. I want you to really make this your own painting. And also I've got some water here and a paper towel just so that we can rinse off our brushes. So we're going to start with the bigger brush, or a brush that you can pot down a lot of paint quite easily. Just dampen it in some water, and I'm just going to quickly ground the canvas, which basically means take the white sting out of it. For this I just like to use a yellow ochre. Again, you can use whatever colour you like. A lot of artists use yellow ochre, but it's just because it gives a nice fairly neutral background. So when I say neutral, it's quite yellow, I mean neutral in value, so that it's not bright white, it's not dark, it's just kind of like a mid-tone, and that helps you see the values just a little bit better. And it doesn't have to be lots of paint on this layer because we want it to dry quite quickly. It's just so that when we're popping down the colours and the values, we can kind of distinguish a little bit easier what's going on with the colour mixes. And this is something I recommend doing for every painting going forward. That's fine, it doesn't have to be perfect, just messy is great. And then just rinse off that colour. So what I always like to do as well is to kind of have like a rough sketch in mind. So rather than just going straight into painting, we want to get like an idea of where things are going to sit on the canvas. And to do that, I like to just create a little bit of a loose drawing. I think I'm going to use magenta for this. Maybe with just a little bit of green in just to take that brightness out. And I'm just going to use this to really sketch in the elements and to think about my composition and where I want certain things to go. So straight away I feel like I want that cream rose to really kind of hit this section here. So I'm just going to sketch that in. And it is quite large actually, really, when we think about how much space it takes up. So that's probably where I'm going to pop that one. And then I might just pop this other rose a little bit further down. On the image, it's kind of on the same line, but actually I'm going to bring that down slightly just to change up the composition, because I'm not sure how I feel about them being in the same place. And I might make it a little bit bigger as well, just to give that a little bit of variation. That's it. And then we don't have to worry about every little detail here. This is just like the basic shapes. So that's my two main roses, and then we've got a third one coming out the back, which I quite like. And then I quite like this other one coming up here. And then we've got a nice white one. I might move the location of the white one too. Might just pop it here and maybe put it on a little bit of an axle too. So it's nice to use a reference, but it doesn't mean it has to be exactly the same. You can like change things around a little bit. And then I'll just sketch in. I've got my main rose leaf coming down here. Then we've got a nice leaf in the background. I might bring that up here. And we can add most of the foliage in later. It's just getting that nice idea of where these blocks will go. And then for the vase, I'm going to have that on like a third of the way across rather than in the middle. I think it creates a bit of a nicer composition. Okay, I feel happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is rinse off my brush, and we can actually start blocking in some of these colours. Also, if you've got a cup of tea on the go or some snacks, now's a nice time to just have a little breather before we get stuck in. So I think for now I'm going to stick with my larger brush so that we can keep on building up those shapes, and then we'll go in with the smaller one a little bit later. I think that's how it keeps like a really nice impressionistic feeling, is when you keep everything quite with large brush strokes. What I'm going to do next is kind of probably work in the order that we placed it. So I'm going to start on this rose here, because I feel like these are probably the two main focal points, but I feel like this rose, I really enjoy the colours and the shadows. So we're going to start off with the darker tones first. So when we look in the shadow of that rose, we can clearly see there's like a yellow undertone. So I'm going to start with my yellow, but I can see that it's a little bit dull. It's got a little bit of a dullness to it. I actually think there's probably a little bit of everything, because I can see a little bit of warmth and pinks in there too. So I'm going to add a little bit, just a very small amount of that. But I'm also going to add a little bit of blue, because I can see that it's in shadow and it's quite dark. So I think I'm going to start off with this more duller colour, and when you squint at the photo you can really pick out some of those shapes. Now I don't want to like, I kind of want to let my brush do the work and just kind of like pop in some of those shapes and not take it too seriously. I might just add a little bit of white to that. The only thing, it's starting to disappear into our background, but that's fine. And then I might just add a little bit of green to that as well, because I can see some green tones in there. And this is how you can kind of create like dynamic colour choices, by just adding some really unusual mixes in there. Okay, so I might rinse my brush off there. And next I might just pop in that lighter tone. So for the lighter tone, I think I just want to go with the yellow, maybe a little bit of blue. but then lots of white. So I'm not going to use direct white. I want to make sure it's an off-white, but that it is quite a light one. Still a little yellow. I might add a little bit of blue still. Maybe a tiny bit of pink. Okay, I feel happy with that. Just obviously your camera will pick up my colours quite differently as well, so really follow your gut on this and go with what you feel. And again, squinting at the reference, I kind of want to let my brush do most of the talking and creating those shapes, but put a brush stroke down and then check back at your reference and so on, and just keep building up the layers like that. I'm just going to use the tip of my brush now just to bring in some of those details. Okay, that's fine for now. I'm going to rinse off my brush. So I would say that's like the first stage of blocking in. And now we're going to do that for all the flowers, all the whole painting, just to get a sense of it, and then we can go in with some details right at the end when that's dry. And so next we're going to focus on this rose, taking the magenta. I feel like it's got a little bit of more of a reddy alizarin crimson vibe, so I'm going to add a little bit of the yellow ochre to really get that richness. And I'm not going to add anything else to that for now anyway, and just again looking at the reference and back at the painting, just kind of adding those brush strokes in, using the shape of my brush. Okay, and then I'm going to add a little bit of blue into that. And maybe a little bit of white. Just for some of those lighter but more shadow pieces up at the top. And I think I'm going to take some of the magenta and add just a little bit of blue, just to get that deep inner shadow. In fact, maybe a little bit of green as well, just to get that deep shadow in the centre. Just in a few moments. I don't want to do it too much. I think that's fine. Maybe just lift that up. Okay, so the next bit, as you can clearly see, there's a nice bit of highlight on this flower. So I'm going to take some of the magenta and add some of that white. I'm going to add a bit of the yellow ochre in as well, just to make it a little bit more pinky, reddy, red pink rather than magenta pink. That's nice, I like that. And then I'm just going to use my brush and just pick out some of those petals, just using the shape of my brush. And we're just kind of building up this rose now. This is one of my favourite things to paint, especially in like an abstract way. And then I'm going to take a little bit more white to get a really nice light pink. And just on the tip of my brush, I'm just going to check in the reference photo, pick up some of those highlights. And just follow your intuition. It doesn't have to look like mine. Just have fun with it. Just experiment. It's when we experiment, that's when we get better, when we let go of the fear of trying to make it perfect. Okay, I think that's fine for now. Again, we can go in and add some more details later. So what's next? Let's build up some of these other roses. We don't have to take as long on these ones. I noticed that rose in the background is of a similar colour, so I'm going to pop that in. Just using the shape of my brush again. Just taking it to the side. And we can use the colours that we've already got on the palette. You can see just a rose in the background that I'm just going to pop in, maybe add a little bit of green just to get that shadow. Okay. I might just get some more paper towel because I think this one's had enough. I might be able to use that bit. Sometimes an old rag actually works better because you can just keep on reusing it and then it just dries rather than the paper towel. Okay, so let's start going in with some of the greenery. We don't have to worry too much at this stage because I think we can do a lot with the greenery later, and I kind of like my greenery to always be a little bit more abstract. But this is why flat edge brushes are so great, because you can just create really great leaf shapes with flat and filbert brushes. Oh, I've just realised I need to add in that extra white flower that I forgot about at the top. Okay, so I've kind of just gone in straight with the base green, but I think it'd be nice to add in a bit of white to that, and probably some of the yellow ochre as well, and kind of add in some like little highlights. And then as well, we've got underneath the flowers, because we've got the vase, so we have to bring some of these down as well. I think I'm going to actually take some of the green, add a little bit of blue, and probably some of the yellow. To create a bit of a less vibrant green. And maybe just a little bit of the red with the blue, with the yellow. A bit of more of a brown, like a grey brown. Okay, that's fine, and we can go over that when we actually do the vase as well. Okay, as promised, I'm going to pop in that other rose I totally forgot about. There we go, that's fine. Okay, so once you've kind of blocked in most of the things, and don't worry if you need like a bit more time to do this, because I am working quite fast, so that this tutorial is not 3 hours long. So don't worry if you need to pause the video and keep on blocking in your flowers and then come back. That's absolutely fine, no worries. And next we're going to kind of move on to the background and start building that up and carving into what we've already done. And I'm going to show you some cool techniques. So if you want to, you can wait for that to dry, get a snack, get a cuppa, or if you're ready, we can just crack on. So we're going to pop in some of the background. It's totally up to you what colour background that you want to add in. I think I'm going to go with more of a blue tinge, but maybe keep some of that yellow from the background peeking through in places. I don't know yet. My backgrounds I always just kind of like to do a bit more intuitively. So I'm going to take some of, I think this is the cobalt blue. Yeah, cobalt blue. But any blue would work nice. And I'm going to just take some white. I do just want to tone that down a bit, so I'm going to add a little bit of the yellow ochre and a little bit of the magenta. Ooh, that was a lot of magenta. And I'm thinking this colour is perfect, by the way. It's kind of like an off blue, like a grey blue. And I think this is going to offset really nicely against the white rose. So I think I'm going to pop this in. Again, I'm going to be quite loose with it. I'm not going to overthink it too much. And we can bring the rose back in. So if you paint over some of the rose but accidentally, that's absolutely fine. In fact, I quite like to intentionally do that sometimes, and then I can bring it back in, and it's like the interplay with layers, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, that makes it really dynamic and gives you a sense of like movement in the painting. So yeah, I'm going to bring this in, and it is quite dark, so I might just brighten it up in places. And I kind of want my background to be a little bit of a diagonal, just to give it a little bit of movement in the piece. I'm just going to sketch that in. And I think as I go across, I might choose to make it a little bit lighter in places. So I might add a little bit of white to that. Just to brighten it up a little bit. Maybe add a little bit more pink just to warm it up a little. And the thing is, with like impressionistic painting, it doesn't have to be finished in like a really nice complete way. So you can leave a bit of like unusual brush strokes. I mean, I might just really play up around these roses. Sometimes what I like to do is kind of treat the negative space as the subject. So really kind of like build up, you know, the background, almost more so than the roses, and that can create a really nice effect as well. Or you can just kind of like blend it out and keep it super abstract. That's really nice too. And then also what I quite like to do is really check on my shapes at this point and think about if I want to make any adjustments. So this leaf was a little bit big, so I'm just going to trim a little bit off of that and bring that down to the side. In fact, I might just trim it even further. And just bringing that down. Okay. And then for the base, I think I might go for like this creamy colour, similar to the roses basically, which I think was yellow ochre, white with a bit of the pink. And again, I might kind of like start off with a bit more of a darker colour and then kind of just play with that a little bit and bring some white into it. And it's just playing with these colours really. And you'll notice that I haven't really washed my brush tons, and that's because I kind of like how the colours are kind of bleeding into each other, which is probably like a rule that you're not supposed to do, but I actually kind of like that effect. I feel like it kind of gives much more of a harmonious painting. Okay, so if you're following along, well done. You've already done amazing. Like, just keep going and don't worry if it doesn't look the same. Don't worry if it's looking a bit, I say like the ugly stage. All paintings go through an ugly stage where you kind of lose sight of the vision. Just keep on going, please, just keep going. I'm just gonna add like a little bit of shadow from one of the greens that we made earlier, just around the vase. Okay, so now we need to block in the vase as well. So let's have a think about this. So it's nice to have like a bit of the background showing through. So we kind of want to use similar colours to what we used in the background. Mine have mostly dried up, so you just have to go and make it again. And then I'm kind of just gonna, really in an abstract way, give the impression, and this is what like the term impressionistic kind of means. It's more to give the impression of the vase than to create it perfectly with every detail. It's about saying the most with the least. So what can you paint in like the least amount of ways, if that makes any sense. And we can go over this again with more of the branches. And then so once you've kind of done that, I think created that as much as I want to. I think next we can do the same but with the light with darker tones, sorry. So all of these shadows will be reflected in the glass alongst the bottom and along the side. So that's what we're going to do next, is so taking the green, probably mostly green, but I can add in a bit of blue and a bit of the magenta as well, just to give it a nice kind of like colourless grey, and kind of use the shadows and the reflections to create that shape of the vase. My problem is I'm not great at straight lines, as you can probably see. That's probably why I do impressionistic things. And at this point, feel free to use onto the smaller brush. I think I probably will in a second. I'm also going to take some of the green and kind of bring in a bit more of those branches again. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's fine for now. It gives the impression. I'm also going to just top up my green because I've realised I've just run out. And then for the final stage of the glass, we're actually going to add some highlights. And for this, you can either use a palette knife. I'm going to use the smaller brush here. So I'm just going to dampen that and just creating a very light colour. We don't want white, but maybe just a cream or a blue. Just very light in value. Just taking the tip of the brush, just pick out some little like highlights. And this is kind of what makes glass look realistic, is these tiny little highlights amongst the darker colours. The only other thing that I'm not loving about mine in particular is this line here. So I'm thinking about, I think I'm gonna add probably that same highlight actually, just to finish that off. Yeah, I think I like that a lot better. I might just bring that in this side too. Yeah, I'm much happier with that. Okay, so I think for finishing, I actually really like the way that some of these yellows from the background are still poking through. So I'm going to leave that kind of with like an unfinished look, because I love that unfinished look. It's my favourite. And next we can just add like a few little details. I don't want to add too much because I love like the impressionistic style of this. But I think there's just a few bits that could have a bit more of detail basically. So I'm going to start off with this rose again, creating that dark colour with the blue and the yellow and a bit of the red. So for the centre, I just want to bring in the depth and the richness again. So I'm going to use quite a lot of paint as well and really kind of pack that on. I'm just going to wipe off the excess and then kind of take that yellow straight from the tube and just in a couple of moments just like give a little pop of that yellow. And I might just add a little bit of white to that. And just add some little brush strokes. Just kind of blending in those two areas, the two light and darks together. And then taking some of the white, or quite a lot of the white, I'm not going to use straight white, but just a very, very, very light yellow colour. I'm just going to pick up some of those little highlights right on the edge of the petals. Okay. Then I'm just going to carry on moving through basically next onto this other rose, using these same colours. So I can use this darker colour for like the base, and then next go straight in with the yellow ochre just for a little pop of yellow, and then go in with the lighter colours just to build up those petals. And then next with this rose, again, I kind of want to get that really deep. It's basically kind of going over what we've already done, but with more intention. Last time it was more of a blocking in sketchy way, whereas this is a bit more of a intentional way. So I'm going to create that dark colour using the magenta, some yellow and some of the blue, just to make sure that that section is really pulling your view in. Then I'm going to go straight in with the magenta and kind of create that richness, because magenta is such a rich colour. And then taking some of the white, I'm going to add a bit of yellow ochre as well, like we said before, to make it a bit more of a peachy colour. And then taking that pink, just kind of pick up some of those petals. And it really helps to squint at your reference photo. So this is the first time we've been using like a smaller brush as well, so you can kind of Add in any details you want. I wouldn't necessarily say to focus on details because we're kind of creating like an impressionistic rose, but definitely if you feel like there's something that you want to include, go ahead and include that with the brush stroke. And I'm going to add just a bit of white to that for a very, very light pink, light in value. And then kind of pick out just a few little moments to add this highlight onto. But that might even be a bit too light. And if you do see it like that, I just put down a bit too much. I'm just going to add a little bit more of the darker pinks into that and kind of take away some of what I've just done. Okay, I think that is enough. I think I'm going to stop playing with it now. Sometimes it's about just knowing when to stop and when to quit. Okay, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to, you know what I might do actually is just like kind of add a little bit of pink into that jar. Just as a reflection, just a tiny bit. Okay, we're nearly there, guys. Nearly there. From this point, all our paintings will look very different. So you just go ahead and do your own thing at this point because it will probably look very different to mine. I'm just going to pop in some more of these roses into the background. And they're all the same colour mixes, so although it looks like I'm speeding through, these are all colours that we've previously mixed. I'm just kind of like remixing them basically. And then just kind of review it and look at your reference photo, look at the painting, see if there's anything you want to fix. There is something I want to fix that I feel like is a bit off on mine, is that that yellow rose here. I feel like that just needs matching up. And with a bit of shadow there. Yeah, that's better. And I think that is pretty much finished. So well done, guys. Like, just to tackle something new is such a huge win. So whether you got the desired outcome that you wanted or not, every painting and every kind of experience is an opportunity to grow and learn and see different ways of doing things. And really experiment. If you feel like you've learned something from this lesson, try it again and maybe add in a new color or a new tool. We never even did use a palette knife in the end, so feel free to go ahead and add a little bit of texture onto that. Really feel free to make it your own. And of course, don't forget to sign your name once it's dry. So yeah, I'll give you a bit of a closer look at the painting.